1620 turn, starting with the command phase. See the list of leader casualties growing, much more so for the Allies than for the French. The Wellington's ride yielded 3 command points, as ADC got another. The cavalry for the French got initiative. That'll help. We're going to continue to attack with the 5th Brigade for the Prussians, and the French will continue hammering with the 3rd and the 4th Corps. The 12th Brigade will begin Thielemann's feint, but not till the French have their chance to move first with the first chit draw. I'm going to start by charging that cavalry. It's the only way to keep them involved in the fight, really. They're just going to try to clear away these 2 Allied units. One is an ammunition wagon. The other is the Dutch cavalry. They're going to gang up with 2 French regiments, and they do get a plus grand disorder. We'll clear out that cavalry as it retreats away very slowly across that sunken road. So the defensive fire phase, the biggest outcome was that Girard of the 7th Division was killed. Otherwise, pretty benign, other than a few retreats. The French will then have their melee. They disorder 1 battalion in an attack, throwing them back and advancing into that hex. The other attack against that plus grand disorder battalion is going to be a little more extreme. They achieve a defender surrender, wiping out that entire battalion. So it's been a pretty successful attack for the 3rd Corps there, definitely busting up the 1st and 3rd Prussian brigades. And at switch, we're actually going to have some action chits pulled. Reinforcements, there weren't any, but regroup, moved a few units around. The leader chit then, again, leader sort of repositioned, but the biggest outcome was that the ADC carrying the order for the 1st Corps was able to exit the map. Then the Allies draw their chit. Not much in the way of fire combat outcomes, but the 5th Brigade is going to conduct their attacks against the 7th Division here for the French. Ends up being a pretty good outcome overall. Disorder 1 battalion there. Another attack is going to push back those skirmishers as they retreat before combat and then expose that French battalion to assault. Again, a successful assault, a disorder, but they're going to have to retreat through 2 ZOCs and losing 2 increments. The 3rd attack against those skirmishers is going to be the most devastating. They have no way to retreat, nowhere to go, so they have to stand and face the attack, and it turns out to be very devastating. A defender surrender. Only a lot of boxcars. So an entire battalion wiped out there, and that was a full-strength battalion at that. So a very good counterattack by the 5th Brigade. Going to finish out the turn with the artillery chit, and then no morale levels or anything to do with the turn end, but this just shows us our final positions. The 3rd Division was unable to make any ground, but otherwise the French are making slow progress at Quatre Bras. The 5th Brigade's counterattack was probably the biggest outcome, but the 1st Corps is definitely getting ground down quite a bit. And then there's the 12th Brigade advancing across the brook, with the reserve cavalry the only thing in front of it. A lot happening in the 1640 turn. As usual, we start with command, and we'll see much of the same things playing out with command that we've seen in the past. Wellington is still to the west of the road trying to organize a defense. On its switch, we're going to move the 3rd Reserve Cavalry. At Ligny, most of the same things happening. 3rd and 4th Corps for the French, 5th Corps for the 5th Brigade for the 2nd Corps is going to continue their attack. Over here on the eastern side, we're going to see the 10th Brigade continue to move. We also have some command coming to the 3rd Corps Cavalry. And the Allies draw first. They're going to charge some Uhlans there. Go after the French. It's not the only good thing they can get out of this. Now they rout that skirmish unit, and then the line infantry fails to stand, and the pursuit is pretty devastating, wipes out the entire battalion. So that one squadron did a lot of damage. In the melee phase, they inflicted some casualties, but did not force a morale check or a failure. Taking it up with the 5th Brigade, we see that they have assaults all across the line. First assault on the right there is going to see the skirmishers retreat. I probably shouldn't have let them do that now that I see that, but they continue the assault. This was a fail to stand that results in a rout. We have another melee here that causes a blank result and then a failure, a morale check failure. We have another fail to stand. That was actually a disordered unit under that marker, and they second disorder and therefore rout. So success all across the line here for the 5th Brigade. This unit is trapped, that artillery, and they fail and are destroyed in another advance. So we see the 7th Division has really fallen back in disarray while the 5th Brigade is surging. Then the French have their turn. They're going to try to re-establish some order here on the left flank by charging light cavalry. They don't have the best result. They don't force any morale check failures, so they go in for the melees with mixed results. Some casualties did disorder a unit, but also bounced and failed the morale check and retreated one of the regiments. Now on the east side, we're going to charge one of the dragoon regiments. And yeah, I grabbed the wrong markers. So that is a charge, and each of these regiments is going to go forward. First, we see some squares formed, but also a failure and a pursuit, inflicting 3 casualties. The next charge causes some squares to form. Also, those correct markers, good for me. But those skirmishers rout and retreat, and that battalion attempted to form square and failed, and the pursuit inflicted 3 casualties. That caused a morale check cascading failure for the landwehr. They started to fail and started to fall back. Now the 3rd regiment charged, but they tried to go through those squares, received some opportunity fire, and routed. The final charge was basically attempt the same path through in between those squares. They also take some opportunity fire, but managed to drive home and rout and pursue that infantry. So fairly good result for the cavalry charges here on the east side. Defensive fire or offensive fire, the only real outcome was that the Duke of Brunswick was killed. Then the French will begin their assaults here at Quatre Bras. Von Butler did not defect. I just knocked his counter out of the way there. So the first attacks are against that artillery battery, which is destroyed. The next against that ammunition wagon, which actually disorders and retreats up the road there. Then we have another attack on those Hanoverians. They fail to stand, disorder, and retreat. It's going to be a recurring theme because those Brunswick light battalions also going to fail to stand and disorder and retreat. So pretty effective assaults there by the French 9th Division. They've really punched a hole in the line at Quatre Bras, separating the two sides of the army there. At Ligny, we're going to continue the counterattack by going after some weak units, the remnants of the 1st Brigade. Going to have some pretty good results. Failed to stand, push them back. Another failed to stand. They will also retreat. We have, I think, one more attack here. This is actually a landwehr unit under that out of command. And they hold up pretty well. Get a blank, inflict a casualty, both stand, and then a 1 casualty apiece result. So those landwehr stood up to being attacked in the rear. Good for them. A couple of final assaults here. We have the 3rd Brigade unit that's going to fail to stand and retreat. Now, they have nowhere to go, so they are effectively destroyed because they have no path of retreat. We have another attack here. This goes to melee, and the resulting retreat is actually somewhat successful. They were able to get away. Here's another assault where they're going to fail to stand, and they end up retreating into zones of control and therefore are destroyed. One final assault on those Prussian guns, and boy, those guns are pretty hardy. They repel yet another French attack. Another battalion thrown back could not carry those guns. The rest of the chits play out, all action chits. A little bit of a regroup. There are no reinforcements for this turn, but we do have a little bit of leader maneuvering when they try to reestablish some command, but not too much. But because it's the end of the hour turn, we'll check morale levels, and the 7th Division is pretty beat up, and they are on morale level 1. The 1st Corps, despite being torn to pieces, still isn't quite on a morale level. The Dutch Belgians have recovered, but the Nassauers have fallen to morale level 2. So the final position shows the 3rd Division for the Allies are still bottled up. That little gap in the line created by the 9th Division for the French. The thrust by the 5th Brigade, parried by the 10th Division there, and still the 12th Brigade is sort of bound up by that cavalry charge, but you see the cavalry is overextended and they're going to be exposed. In a very busy couple of turns, here at Quatre Bras has not been very good to the Allies. The 3rd Division remains bottled up, unable to make any real progress. The Brunswickers and the 2nd Dutch Belgian are in dire straits, despite the effective charge by the Uhlans there. The one win of destroying that battalion is offset by the French breakthrough here at the crossroads, essentially severing the west and east sides of the army. Wellington has been scrambling largely here on the west side, trying to use his command to reconstitute the defense, and has, to his detriment, ignored the east side of the road, who are now, these two very good British brigades are now in danger of being enveloped on both flanks. So, what happened to this? How did this become such an epic fail? Well, really, it started right at the beginning. And I could blame a misunderstanding of the rules, but really, I did not handle the forward defense well at all. The French were able to uncover all the dummy units that were out here of the 2nd Dutch Belgian Division and essentially race right through them. That division collapsed, and the French made much too much progress too quickly, and the arriving reinforcements just could not stem the tide. So it's gone very poorly here. I don't really see much of a chance to recover this side of the field. Wellington again has stuck himself on this side. He is able to contact a few of these weak brigades and keep them going. But he lost an ADC in the fighting here with the 3rd Division. So now he's down to 1 who can fly. Stupidly, did not make an effort to activate the Prince of Orange, because I forgot that the 3rd Division was part of the 1st Corps. So we could have had an extra command point available to keep them going. We'll try to remedy that mistake here in the coming turns and get Wellington over to the other side of the road here. Try to shore up the British defense. I don't know if we're going to be able to pinch off that breakthrough or not. I don't think the Brunswickers are up to it. Now the 3rd Division and the Guard Division that's about to arrive are certainly up to it, but it remains to be seen whether we'll be able to get them out of this little bottleneck and actually into the fight. We had some good back and forth here in Ligny. The Prussian 5th Brigade on the north side of these villages launched a very effective attack, basically vaporizing the French 7th Division, which is not totally ahistoric. They suffered very grievous casualties. but I didn't expect them to disintegrate quite that much. Now, that victory was sort of short-lived as the 10th Division from the 3rd Corps was able to pivot. That was the purpose of keeping them back, right, to be able to counterattack if necessary. They were able to box in the Prussians, but really it was the 11th Division here that was able to push back the remnants of the Prussian 1st Brigade. And the 8th Division right here was able to push back the remnants of the 3rd Brigade, thus uncovering all the bridges that they need in order to continue to attack, essentially in the flank of the remnants of the 2nd Brigade. So the 4th Corps has been pushing pretty hard, but getting chewed up. And the commitment of the 12th Division is really the last straw that they have. That Prussian artillery battery right there has repulsed all attackers. I think we need to give those guys a break and try to limber them and get them out of there. I would hate to lose that battery at this point. But really all that remains of the 1st Corps is the 2nd Brigade right here. The 4th Brigade just sitting here in the town, not doing anything, except for those 2 battalions right there. So it looks like it's going to definitely be time for the remainder of the Prussian 2nd Corps to get into the fight. As we said, the 5th is attacking up here. The 7th was moving in, but the 6th is still back here along with the artillery and the 8th. So they'll be committed to try to stem the tide, and maybe we can pull back the remnants of the 1st Corps to this area, more or less surrendering the little corner around the stream. And to that end, the Marshal has gone back to stack with the 2nd Corps leader to activate him for next turn, which means the 1st Corps leader will no longer be active. Now far to the east, tried to get started with the 3rd Corps' feint, and the Landwehr unfortunately fainted under the pretty strong and effective French charge. And we do have this line of squares. It's going to make it hard for those French cavalrymen to get back to their own lines. They're going to be pretty exposed. But unless the Prussians can rally those Landwehr units, they're not going to be able to do much more here in the center. They have another brigade, but we're trying to kind of attack judiciously. But we're going to have to probably spend more command than we'd like to move this attack forward. Probably getting the 10th Brigade across the stream here. I don't know, the 9th. The idea was to follow the 12th with the 9th right here, but it might be too crowded. We'll see if we can do anything with this Prussian cavalry here in terms of exposing any kind of weaknesses here of the French right. Now the French dispatched the aide to recall the 1st Corps over here to Ligny. So that means they're kind of west of this position here. They're supposed to arrive anywhere between these 2 villages. Now, who arrives and when is just a little sketchy to me. The corps arrivals are split between the 2 fields. One division of cavalry arrives here at Ligny, and the rest of the corps would arrive at Quatre Bras. But since we've rerouted them, they're all supposed to arrive right here. But the rule says, if playing the combined game and they've been rerouted, skip the following reinforcement. That would be the Cavalry and 4th Infantry Division that would arrive at Ligny. But the special rule for the rerouting says the entire formation arrives as scheduled right here. So I'm kind of a little clueless. Does that mean at 5 p.m. I should enter the 4th Division of the Cavalry here, and then the rest of the Corps would arrive, I think, at 6:40, also right here? I'm not sure. There's not a lot of clarity on that, so I think I'm going to go with 5 o'clock. The cavalry and infantry will arrive here with no variable entry. I don't know if that's good or bad. Definitely gives a huge advantage to the French because they're already squashing the allies at Quatre Bras, but I'm going to give that a try and see how it goes. This will put the French in a very strong position. They could very well have a unit, a full infantry corps moving right up along this wide open flank. They have the still pretty potent 3rd Infantry Corps moving this direction, hopefully getting further behind the villages. They've already breached the stream down here. The 4th Corps is probably going to peter out, and we're probably going to go ahead and make room for the Young Guard to push and attack the center here. All that will be drawing in the 2nd Corps. If the flank remains open, that could be a big win for the French, as long as they can continue to keep the Prussian 3rd Corps at bay over here with nothing more than cavalry. There is absolutely no infantry anywhere. The 6th Corps is already going to arrive much, much later than historically, and therefore won't play much of a part in this fight over here. Here at Quatre Bras, well, the French have basically done very well. Maybe if they do well enough, they'll be able to exit the 5th Division off the road, get themselves a decisive victory. But I still think it'll be a tough fight with this British brigade, even though they have an advantage in position right now. If they can, they have such a large amount of ground to cover, they might be able to continue to hold off these weak Brunswick and Dutch Belgian and what remains of the Hanoverian brigade. But it's that 3rd Division and the incoming 1st Division is going to give them the most trouble. I expect the British to be able to fight their way down this road. If the 6th Division can just hold them off with the help of that cavalry, that'll be a pretty good outcome for the French.